All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another great edition of the professional interview series for Parks and Recreation. Today, uh, we have one. I don't know how long do we know each other. To you, it seems like
Wow,
it
man.
seems like a decade, but I'm not sure it's been that long.
Yeah, it's definitely close to it for
Close
sure.
to it.
Close to it for sure. Yeah,
Atuya Cornwell, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Mike. Pleasure, pleasure, pleasure to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. But I'm doing great. Doing great. Had a couple days off, so I'm kind of
Yeah.
rejuvenated there. But I'm doing well. Thank you.
And I know before we started, you said you're hanging out with your parents. Good weather there to on your few days off.
Yeah, beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful, 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 beautiful weather, and it's just cool to connect with them. As I mentioned to you before, of course, it's been a little challenging through the pandemic, not being able to visit as much.
Yeah.
Um, but it's cool to be able to see them. And as you see on the background here, got my pops up, who's my hero,
Yeah.
Paralympic athlete back in the day. So he's getting some shine there in my background
Yeah. Got
there.
some medals back there, and
Yeah.
so tell before we get too far down here, tell us a little bit about your pops.
Yeah, man. So my dad, man, Paralympic athlete, represented the United States in 1992 in Barcelona. So it was super cool. I was able to go. I think I was about sixth grade there,
Yeah.
so I was able to go. So world class power lifter. So basically, the story of my pops, man, became paralyzed about months after I was born. So really going through life, I've always seen him and had the opportunity to see him be my hero and really filter through. So it was for me consciously it was just, hey, this is my dad and he's always
Yeah.
working through it and overcoming life. And so growing up, he was my youth basketball coach, he was my youth baseball coach. Because he was a world-class Paralympic athlete, had the opportunity to travel really the world, man, from England to Spain, all over the United States. So with him as and my mom, just being great and going through life, it's phenomenal. So yeah, that's really kind of a lot of my interest, even getting into the park and recreation field. Initially it was physical therapy, but a lot of it was just going through with my pops. And I think even the connection of, I know we've been able to interact and build via NRPA. So really because of what I saw him, growing up, because not only was he often use the term, and people use the term a lot now, of more than an athlete. My pops was definitely more than an athlete. He was very involved with the Paralyzed Veterans of America, having a lot of interaction with other veterans, and making sure that, they get their benefits. I think a lot of things that often have come up in the past too, like, when it comes to accessibility, right? I think
Mhm.
now we take that for granted. But man, I remember growing up, and this was prior to the ADA being signed, going places where we would have to, in order to get through a restaurant, go through a kitchen, or if we
Yeah.
rode a train somewhere, actually being a cart that really was designated for like cattle when they were,
Yeah.
that type of stuff, man.
Yeah.
So to see him really being more than an athlete because he was an advocate and to the point where he was on the White House lawn when they signed the ADA. So this is cool, and I probably, um, to a certain extent, have a better, greater appreciation for that work. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Now that you go out and you see lifts, on buses, and you see ramps and accessibility and that stuff, that's phenomenal. So I think I'm probably now to the point of my life where I really look back and say, man, this dude was also bench pressing like close to 500 pounds. And
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? He was in Barcelona. He came in fifth place overall when he participated there. But long time for the National Veteran Wheelchair Games. He probably still at this point now. Nobody's probably broken his record there. So just those stories, and
Yeah.
I always share, man, that he was kind of like, you know, when they had the competition, especially at the National Veteran Wheelchair Games, the heavyweights would, they would be the last at the end of the day. But people would literally camp out once they found out which bench and which area that the heavyweights were going to be at.
Yeah.
They would camp out there all day
Yeah.
just to be
Waiting.
have a good seat to see my pops. And he was a showman, man. You know what I mean? They got the wave, the shout, and everything that goes along with that. So when it came to wheelchair sports, I always tell people, man, my pops was really like like the Michael Jordan of sports, the Muhammad Ali type of thing. Like people really cling to his personality and were excited to be around and motivated, and even those other athletes, those other veterans, he really was like their champion, even from the gamut of their injuries, and some people had other injuries where they didn't necessarily, maybe they couldn't be a power lifter, but you know what? Like my pops was their champion for them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it was just cool, man. So much of my experiences, man, probably before the age of 18, being able to travel the world. A lot of my heroes, a lot of my role models were, paralyzed veterans and people that I really looked at. Those are people that I hung out with, right?
Yeah.
There was times when if we were going to a wheelchair basketball game or a practice and they needed an extra person, they would let me hop in a chair and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this, I'm just fortunate that I'm always thankful for my dad and also my mom, just for them, you know, taking that experience of, a life-changing experience, right?
Yeah.
Having, two older sons and then having me a baby, 3 months in, and then this occurs, but then really overcoming and then staying the course and really having a positive impact on the many lives that they've touched through sports and recreation, but also, like I said, being an advocate for disability. So that's my pops, man. So I
Yeah.
always say, when I've had the opportunity to speak at NRPA, a lot of times people get to hear those stories and that inspiration. So, like I said, I didn't become a physical therapist. Those science classes were a little hard for me, you know what I mean? But still stay connected to the sports and
Yeah.
recreation. Like I said, he was our coach, man. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So that's my pops, man.
I remember it was a while back that so I went to Oklahoma State University and they had a pretty good wheelchair basketball team for a long
Okay,
time.
okay, okay.
And I remember for some reason, kind of the same thing. They were short on people. I'm like, why don't you do it? And I was like, how hard could this be, right?
Right.
Boy, did I get a lesson.
Yeah, yeah,
And I've told people that I'm like, you know what? You want to get some respect. You want to gain some respect for these people. Go will yourself around like in a
right.
athletic chair for a while, man. I mean,
Yeah,
my hands were tore up, my shoulders were tore up.
right,
Um,
right.
I gained a lot of respect, and it was a
Yeah.
very teachable moment for me, even though they were nice to me, right? But
Hmm.
anyway, but it was also a lot of fun. What
Yeah,
I
yeah.
found the folks, mostly guys with a few gals, is they're also just uh, maybe because of the trials and tribulations they've had to go through as people, but they were
Hmm.
all just good, wholesome, genuine people, right?
Yeah,
And it sounds a lot
absolutely.
like what your dad is
Yeah,
as well.
that was a cool experience too. Like I said, just being able to meet others and his friends and other veterans. Like, I remember, at the World Games in England, a lot of times, man, my name, the guy I thought was named after was from Nigeria, so it was a Nigerian name, an Igbo name. So it was just cool. Like we at the World Games in England, my pops would, as a little kid, he would take me down. And I could go hang out with the athletes from Nigeria, just
Yeah,
hanging out with them for a couple hours, right? That experience, you know what I
yeah,
mean? So super cool. And then even like that experience you're just talking about, growing up, my pops, they would also do, a non-sport related experience was having these disability awareness days where they would, have those and giving them an opportunity to, to get in a chair or, you're putting on blindfold, and just, because a lot of times, people that need to go through that experience to be able to relate, to
sure,
see, what it really takes. So those are just ways. And, often even I would tell people, and like I said, when you're in it, I always like my mom's a cosmetologist, and I always used to say, man, I probably would take it for granted, but she gave like the best, when she would wash my hair and that
yeah,
type of stuff. And she was just phenomenal as a cosmetologist. But often like when you're with the people and they're like you're close related, you probably don't value what they do
sure,
um,
yeah,
in the moment. But then when you step back away, so even like like I said with my mom, with her and her profession, but then as my pops, man, just to think, the things that he would go through and overcome, and just to get to a practice. Like he was coaching my team, right?
hmm,
To just the preparation from the house, you know what I mean, to
right,
come down the stair glide, to get in the car, to take the chair, put it back, and all that type of stuff. Um, it's amazing, and I'm always just thankful for that dedication. And often people will tell you, from family to friends, and he's had the opportunity to even coach some athletes that actually became professionals. So one played in Major League Baseball, one made it the NBA, and always is just appreciation, just him showing up and being there
yeah,
is it's a testimony, right? And
right,
it gives people motivation, man. So I'll be turning 40 in July. So every time closer to my birthday, man, it's often off. A couple months later, it's also a celebration that, even though that was a moment that impactful moment that changed his life and changed those around him, but to celebrate that he's still here, still inspiring, still motivating people, it's phenomenal, man. So, coming up here, um, if the universe is willing, man, later on this year, I'll be turning 40, and a few months later, he'll be celebrating achieving and overcoming in life 40 years as well.
Yeah.
So super cool, man.
Oh,
Super cool.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think we could talk all day about your dad, but I want to talk
Right.
about you for a little bit. So, well, let's start off at the beginning. Like, where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What kind of stuff did you do as like in school and high school and stuff like that?
Yeah, so grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. Like I told you, I'm actually here for one more day here. So grew up in Charlotte. Had the opportunity. I had two older brothers that I looked up to. They're 11 and 12 years older than me, so I looked up to them. And going once I got to high school, went to West Mecklenburg High School, and probably that was my first engagement of really being involved on like a NRPA type of organizational level. So for those, some people might know Health Occupation Students of America. So I was super involved with that because my older brother was. So my chapter at my high school was the largest Health Occupation Students of America chapter in the state of North Carolina, and one of the biggest in the country. So it was just super cool to get involved with that. And I became like my senior year, I was the president of that club, right?
Yeah.
And then I was on a biomedical debate team, you know what I mean? Even though I might not didn't read the books like I was supposed to be prepared for when we had the debate, but it was cool. So basically that was really my connection in high school to get involved with organizations and also being able to um, travel. Like we went to state conference, then we got to go to national. So my course of time being with Health Occupation Students of America, I went to Los Angeles, I went to Nashville, and I went to Orlando. So that was super cool too. You know what I mean? And that was a time when I didn't, left the parents at home because I'm usually normally at that point was always traveling with them.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, my high school experience was great and really gave me an opportunity to kind of get introduced to that. But from there, oddly enough, my internship when I was in my medical science class in high school, at the time, I wanted to be a zoologist.
Okay.
I love watching Jack Hanna. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm gonna be Jack Hanna. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but my internship at high school had a local veterinarian and went around with him, and he did house calls. He had those experiences, where unfortunately where animals pass and you have to go through
Yeah.
that. Um, I remember the first time he was doing a procedure and it was going to be some blood. He's like, sit down because I'm not sure if you're going to pass out if you see blood or not, right? So yeah, so that was my experience in high school, man, and got me ready. It was just cool to have those experiences with some really cool high school teachers that I built with, and from there went through the process of deciding where I wanted to go to school, and
That was gonna be my
love
next questions. Is so
yeah,
after
yeah.
this, where did you go to college or school at?
Yeah, so the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. Yeah, actually just love that place. Oddly enough, we had went to visit another school. Um, I like that school too. So UNC Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
I went to visit there. Had applied and got into there as well. But that same weekend that I was doing this like in probably 11th grade doing that visit. Um, UNC Greensboro had a program to come stop through and see, and it was just, sometimes you go somewhere and it's just like, wow, man, this is that connection. Like I just was connected. So decided that I was going to go there. I was an exercise sports science major, and then a minor in communications. Um, and it was just a phenomenal experience, and it was cool because Greensboro's geographically set up in the state of North Carolina, kind of in the middle,
Mhm.
and I also was able to drive my freshman year, so that was cool. So every weekend, man, it was like being able to go see my friends. There might have been up in Raleigh or
Yeah.
in Greenville or vice versa. So it was a cool spot. It wasn't too far, so I was probably about an hour, 15 hour, 20 minutes from Charlotte. So my parents would come up and see me probably every 2 weeks and take me out to get Red Lobster. So that was cool.
Gotta get those cheddar biscuits.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it was cool. It really was a cool experience, and really there was able to continue to grow involvement with student organizations, from NAACP to my fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma, and just really getting involved and having an impact in the community. And those
Hmm.
organizations were super cool. So that kind of also filtered into this me growing as a person, um, and then having the opportunity at the time. So my senior project, I kind of did a. It was kind of. I'm trying to remember how did I get to the point, but my actually was able. I got approval that my project, my senior project, was actually overseen by my minor, my communications, one of my communication professors.
Hmm.
Um, and I kind of did a combination because at the time, my interest, I mentioned before that initially going to college, I want to be a physical therapist, and that kind of started to change. So I kind of started getting an interest of the business side of sports.
Hmm.
And at the time, they didn't really have like sports management and these type of degrees that you can get
Yeah.
now. So I kind of had to kind of put it together. So I still was an exercise sports science major. I took some communication classes, I had a lot of business communication components of that. So my internship at the time was with, I got an opportunity to be with the WNBA, the Charlotte Sting at the time. Was super cool because that experience was unique. Because at the time, for those that kind of know the NBA history, the original Charlotte Hornets had left. They left and went to New Orleans. So at the time, we didn't have an NBA team, but during that summer that I was an intern with the WNBA Sting, the NBA awarded Charlotte a franchise. And, Bob Johnson at the time was the owner. So I always tell the story that during that summer as an intern, the story doesn't mean as much now because now they're back to the Hornets, which I like, I'm a
Yeah.
Hornet guy. But at the time, they had a big event downtown Charlotte and the unveiling of what the new team name was going to be. And so I was behind the scenes. I was the one that cut the rope to let everybody know that we were going to be at the time the Charlotte
Yeah.
Bobcats. So it's a cool story back then. But
Yeah.
now they're no longer the Bobcats. So, but anyway, that was a super cool experience for me. Really getting to see that business side, and it was also cool. Um, those that might had the opportunity to intern and be a part of professional sports at the time. The fact that it was under new ownership and that transition, they probably had about, and I'm talking all the way up to the top to whoever was like the CEO at the time for the organization. It probably was only about 7 to 10 career full-time team members, and
Gotcha.
then you had this inaugural crop of interns. It was probably about 10 of us, and man, I was my main area was game day operations. So the guy I interned under, I was kind of said he's like the wedding director for a sporting event.
Okay.
So everything that happens from the giveaways they give out when you come into the arena to what's going to happen during the timeouts, when is the mascot going to do this? When
Hmm.
is the cheerleaders are going to do this? What promotional thing? And we would have like game days, man. We would get together, have a morning meeting, have a meeting in the afternoon, going over, what's going to happen during this time, all of that. So it was a super cool experience, but then also those that might have um, were interns before and were professional, you do everything, right? Especially on game days, and
Hmm.
so from ticket sales to communications, all those components of doing that type of stuff. So it was a super cool experience, and I enjoyed the process and kind of got me connected.
Did you stay? So that's your internship. Did you stay on there past your internship, or did you move on to a different experience or a different opportunity?
Yeah, so actually, it was cool. I actually got offered a full time career opportunity there after I graduated. So that was um, I stayed on as an intern even through the fall. Because in my fall semester when I was a December graduate and I only had one class. So I stayed on intern a little bit. So got offered the opportunity as soon as I graduated with them at the time. So the NBA, WNBA team. But then also I had applied for opportunity in Park and Rec with Mecklenburg County back in Charlotte.
Hmm.
So got offered same time and just went through my decision process and made the decision to go with Park and Recreation and take it was a recreation leader position um, with Mecklenburg County Park and Rec. So that kind of got me through that, through that course of it. But I definitely look back on that internship experience. It was phenomenal. Even now, man, there's some people that I interned with. It was super cool. One of the gentlemen, um, he became, stay connected and started, he became an assistant coach. I think he played originally, I think back at Temple University. as a as an undergrad, but now he just got his first head coaching career job. NCAA career head coaching job. So and then there's others that went on to have their own massage therapy location. There's some that stayed with the organization and kind of worked their way up. So phenomenal experience, and it's always like you got that connection with and probably no other interns that came after us had that experience because, like I said, the organization was just getting started.
Yeah.
When you're sitting there and they only got 7 full-time career people, and I'm talking about all the way up the chain, so it was a phenomenal experience. But I'm happy that I made the decision to get in park and rec as well, because just growing up, I'll take it back way back. I would consider myself, I refer to it often, I'm a park and rec kid because growing up, my community center really was my connection to my community, because in elementary school, I went to a school that was a little bit on the other side of town. So, but far as, from after school program to Little League basketball, T-ball, it was all at my local community center, city recreation center. So, and that was really my connection to be able to hang out with my friends from my community.
Yeah.
So with that said, I really counted it as a pleasure to be able to get in the field, because I looked up to like Miss Shirley, Tom, and George. Those were the community center directors and managers of that community center. So to be able to be in a field that people I looked up to growing up,
Yeah.
so it was super cool. So I jumped on the opportunity and started my career in park and rec with Mecklenburg County Park and Rec.
So as a recreation leader, so a couple of different things is tell us a little bit about where that county is as far as it, because I know some folks watching this may not know, but
Right.
After that, tell us a little bit about what you did as a recreation leader.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mecklenburg County is in Charlotte, North Carolina. So really, the Piedmont area, I guess you would call it, Carolina, and right at the border too. So South Carolina's right here.
Mm-hmm.
And for those that know their theme parks, Carowinds theme park is right near here. But Charlotte's home of the Panthers, home of the Charlotte Hornets now. So and the home of NASCAR as well. So yeah, as a rec leader, I really had a unique experience though, because traditionally within my department, rec leaders were assigned to community centers. So you worked under a facility manager. My supervisor was actually a general manager of a park region. So really a lot of the outdoor, from outdoor field complexes to just local parks and, some picnic shelters, all of that. And at the time, the department had 2 new MOUs. So one was with a local church, and then also 5 minutes up the road, there was a new middle school being built. And so they had an MOU with that middle school to be able to, basically run a community center recreation program out of the school. And the same thing with the church site. So uniquely enough, my offices starting out, my first ever offices was a small office inside of a church at Parkway CME Church in Charlotte, and then at Martin Luther King Junior Middle School. And at the time, the first year, another school, which was being remodeled, utilized the new school site. Kind of confusing. So it started out at Eastway Middle School.
Yeah.
And then year 2, they moved back to their building. And then you had the new Martin Luther King Junior Middle School. So really it was cool because I had the opportunity to really kick off those recreation programs from scratch.
Yeah.
So for me, I told my team this story the other day. It was a unique experience being at the church site, and you go to school and you get your exercise sports science major, and you graduate, you park and rec. And for me, I'm probably thinking I'm just going to be doing sports stuff. But my first assignments was I had a local daycare who wanted to get arts and crafts, and this is something where they could bring their kids out, kind of a little small field trip.
Yeah.
And so my first couple programs was doing arts and crafts for this daycare. And I remember my first day, I'm trying to remember what we did as far as the activity, but they were super quiet, didn't say much. And I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I bombed this, right? So then they line up to get ready to go to get on their bus. And one of the kids turns around and says, Mr. Cornbread, we had fun. So everybody, my name is Cornwell. So he said,
Yeah.
Mr. Cornbread, and the whole class laughs. And they're like, yeah.
Uh,
So they had a good time. So,
yeah.
anyways, this, for those that might watch this, the experiences that you might have as a park and recreation professional, um, it's going to be a little bit of everything. You might think that you're just going to come out here and be doing sports leagues and stuff like that, but I'm literally looking up, um, arts and craft activities. So, had that opportunity, but then also at the middle school site, was able to really build their sports program. From having after school, working with the school to have after school programs. uh, Spanish class lessons to dance, West African dance, to also kicking off the youth basketball league program, t-ball, all of that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
it was cool. It was a cool experience. There was the site was very close to one of our at the time, very well known community centers that was successful.
Yeah.
So I had a little bit of a challenge there, right? To build this new program, to build trust, to build an audience, to be able to come over and participate. Because the other location, they were kind of like filled to capacity, so they needed us to be in play. So it was cool. It was cool to be able to build that. And like I said, it gave me a unique experience. And I would always encourage people to, whenever you have an opportunity, to be in a role or position, but then you also have the opportunity to be unique in a way. It's cool because as a rec leader, I really got experience. I really was like the facility manager at both of those locations because I was the only one working there.
Yeah.
At one point in my, I think we had one other rec leader at the time, that spent some time at those locations, but it was cool. So I'm thankful for that experience because I think it put me on a track. So within 2 years, I was able to get a promotion and became, athletic coordinator at the time and had a little bit more responsibility and so forth. So yeah, that was my entry level into the
Yeah.
field.
Well, tell us more about. You said you transitioned to an athletic coordinator,
Mhm.
or so. Tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so with that, had an opportunity to be over a region, so coordinating the outdoor field rentals for a softball complex, any of the soccer fields in that area, to also hosting weekend softball, baseball tournaments, still having that engagement with some of the youth leagues that we put on internally for the department as well. So T-ball, basketball leagues, those components. So really that administrative piece really, got me deeper into the administrative side of the experience, the background stuff, right? As
Mhm.
as a participant, you come out and you kind of just feel like, okay, it happens, right? But who got the referees booked, right? Who got the fields, and work with the maintenance team to make sure that the fields were aligned and the bases were at the right distance, right? Who scheduled the staff, the team members to work that event, in the evening to cut on the lights, who scheduled the lights to come on if they were automated. So did a lot of that work, and then also work collectively with the other athletic coordinators within the county to provide countywide sports as well in the leagues and so forth. So it was super cool, and it gave me an eye. I started out um, in the northern area of the county, and then we had some restructuring. So my area of responsibility kind of grew to the central area, kind of like the downtown area, and it's the central component of the county of Mecklenburg, and expanded. So was able to be with Mecklenburg County about 7 years
Okay.
prior to me transitioning into Maryland. So, but yeah, that was the range of so a lot of the sports administration component
Yeah.
of responsibilities when it came to being an athletic coordinator and then overseeing some facilities as well, sports facilities.
So you talked about at that point you transitioned to Maryland. So what? So before I want you to talk about your next position, but also talk about like what
Mhm.
made you start. What made you start looking or exploring or considering options?
Yeah, so really, it was my involvement with NRPA.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, I think it was about maybe 2007 or 8, there was an opportunity, the fellowship, the Young Professional Fellowship. I applied. The conference was in Baltimore, and I won a fellowship to be able to go. And I was, when you win the fellowship, you get support to be able to go to the conference, but also you're paired with a mentor So at the time, I had a mentor was from New England, Susan Cooper. She was super cool. Took me around everywhere she went, introduced me to everybody she knew, and this kind of gave me, a real good insight of the organization of NRPA and the opportunities that are established there. So from there, it just kind of started to build. So the following year, I applied for the diversity scholarship and was able to win that one. So I had another basically a diversity fellowship. So the conference was in Salt Lake City, Utah. Had another mentor by the name of Tom Ross. So at the time, Tom Ross was the executive director of Maryland Recreational Park Association. So this really built with him. He did the same thing as Susan did, like took me around everywhere. Um, and I really kind of just started looking at opportunities, especially, at the time, um, you know, the recession had hit kind of, and at the time, I still was at my job with Mecklenburg County, but when that recession hit, you kind of start seeing some stuff. You start seeing organizations lose a lot of staff. So with that, it kind of triggered too that you got to be open to if other opportunities come up, being willing to do that. Everybody knows a lot of my friends back in the day would call me, my nickname would be the mayor because I just love Charlotte so much, right? But with that said, I really looked at it as an opportunity to expand within the industry that I love. And also having support of my family and saying, of course, they always come visit. I come visit here, they come there. So the opportunity basically opened up just because of networking
Mhm.
and those fellowships and being involved with NRPA, from the Young Professional Network to then going into the program committee and just the people in the network that you meet, you kind of start hearing about opportunities. And like, okay, well, I might be interested in that. And it was cool. So I was able to get the opportunity to join the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. At the time, the commission is a bi-county agency, so it has oversight in Montgomery County, Maryland, as well as Prince George's County. So initially, when I moved up, I was on the Montgomery County Park side. So I became a enterprise facility manager over multiple enterprise complexes. So Ice Arena, Wheaton Ice Arena, Wheaton Sports Pavilion, which is like a soccer field complex, as well as a miniature train and carousel. So that was like the coolest, funnest job right there, right? So that what took me to Maryland. That
Yeah.
took me to Wheaton, Maryland. So born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina, went to school in Greensboro, came back to Charlotte. Never thought I would make that move, but that's
Yeah.
what took me there. Yeah.
And so you talked about your position there a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you did when you first, or what that entails, I guess?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So basically, had oversight of those three facilities, and then it also was a skate park. So as the manager, I had an assistant manager underneath myself, as well as a skating director. So the main location was the ice arena. So that was another component too, because I never had did ice management. So looked at the opportunity to be able to kind of diversify my portfolio, right? And then it still was same business operations as me, oversight of athletic complex or a high school site that I've had in my previous position. So, but had oversight of that facility. So, the ice arena, year-round facility, indoor, single sheet location. We had a gymnasium as well, a workout gym in there. So, from the learn to skate programs to just the Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, open skate, to come out. We had a pro shop there as well. Had a snack bar. So that whole operation and working with a seasonal, team member staff from manager on duties to the skate guards. So it was cool and gave me experience to really expand when it came to facility management and also, being a manager and working with others. Also, I really had to be willing to multitask because we were transitioning when I got there. The old original ice rink in that same park was outdoor, but it was covered. So we transitioned that to the sports pavilion. So putting down artificial turf, had a party room there. So opening that site up. So it was cool to be able to open up a new site, a remodel site. And then on the other side of the park was a miniature train and carousel operation as well. So just managing that team. Um, and then we had a skate park a little bit farther up northern side of the county. outdoor skateboard park that I had oversight of too. So really a lot of that was this management, facility management, managing seasonal staff as well as career team members. And that, gave me a little bit of a unique perspective too, because at that location we were straight, we were enterprise facilities. So we didn't necessarily receive tax supported dollars for our operation. So we're based strictly off of user fees. So it really gave me a new concept, and an experience to make sure, hey, you really having to look at budgets, right? Plan out, forecasting, seeing where we have to make some operational changes. Maybe we're only open up Tuesday through Saturday or something. You know what I mean? Just looking at that type of stuff. So it was a very cool experience. It definitely gave me added to my portfolio, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and it was a great opportunity for me to not only just expand my experience personally, but just to see and to be able to move somewhere different, right? And to work with a new community, and to a certain extent, I think it was able to kind of prove to myself that that I am a park and recreation professional, right? And a lot of the stuff that I've learned over the years, that it transitions not in one community, but it transitions across the board.
Sure.
And I really credit that to the opportunity that even to entertain moving and going somewhere else, just through my networking and building with my mentors and building with others within NRPA and the Young Professional Network and stuff that really gave me that inspiration to even attempt to try it. You know what I mean? Because it's a big deal. It's about a 6.5, 7 hour drive. It's a very short flight, but it's a big deal to move somewhere different. You know what I mean? But I'm glad I took that on, and it's definitely has been a great experience for me. And now, as we kind of transition, like I said, in 2016, I had the opportunity to transition over to the Prince George's County side, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. So it's been super cool.
Yeah. Tell us more. So, and that's where you're at now. So tell us a little.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, what your title is, what you do, and some of the cool things about what you do, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So originally, when I transitioned over in 2016, I started as a countywide sports coordinator. So I had the opportunity to facilitate countywide sports. My main area of focus, one of the super cool things I'm super proud of, at the time, was able to start the first ever recreational lacrosse program in Prince George's County. So for those from Maryland know that the University of Maryland is a powerhouse in women's and men's lacrosse. But we really hadn't had the opportunity on a recreational level, for our youth to be exposed to the game of lacrosse. So I had the opportunity to build that program as a countywide sports coordinator. Also in that role, worked closely with our permitting and field operations unit when it came to booking fields and user groups, having access to those locations, hosting those weekend tournaments. So a lot of some of the work I was doing in Mecklenburg County as well. And then, also having a role in working at the time, working with one of our local hockey teams there as well, the Tucker Road Ducks. So that was a cool part of my work program as well. So yeah, this, providing those sports opportunities on a countywide basis and working with that unit. So, but then fast forward to 2019, we had an opportunity where we actually have a new division within Prince George's County Department of Parks and Recreation. This is the Youth and Countywide Sports Division. So that was established then, and it gave me an opportunity to apply and go for the assistant division chief position. So that's the position I'm in now. So I serve as the assistant division chief within the Youth and Countywide Sports Division. So on a daily basis, I work closely with our countywide sports programmers that provide those leagues, clinics, camps on a countywide basis for sports. And then also working closely with our permitting and field operations unit, who book our tennis courts, who book our athletic fields. So it's been a cool experience. Even through the pandemic, man, we're building, bringing on new team members. So really with the goal of providing, quality access, equal access to sports facilities within Prince George's County, and providing those quality experiences too. So when you talk about being able to connect them to the game of lacrosse, right, or volleyball, or girls lacrosse, those components of just making sure that everybody has an opportunity, especially at that entry level, starting out from that Pee-wee, 3, 4, and 5,
Yeah.
and just connecting and exposing. We often use a term of empowerment through exposure. And it's not only just the youth, but it's also, when I think about our lacrosse program, we had plenty of coaches that wanted to volunteer and they were out there being a part of this process, but they never played the game of lacrosse, right? So they're learning. They might have coached football, they might have coached basketball, they might have coached soccer, but so it's empowering not only youth, but the coaches, the parents.
Yeah.
So it's been a cool experience, and we're looking to continue to build and really provide those opportunities where it's empowerment through exposure, and at least making sure that youth in Prince George's County have an opportunity to be exposed to a sport. Because often, and I think this as well, is sports and recreation. It goes beyond the playing field, beyond the playing court. It builds character, it builds responsibility, it builds teamwork. So just having that and utilizing sports to be able to connect that.
Yeah.
So it's been a great pleasure for me, an opportunity within my career to expand and take on a new challenge. It's been super cool, and I'm fortunate to work and build with a phenomenal team, and even this art department. The commission is a very large agency, but I've always been amazed at just how close we are. We really operate on a family level, that we're almost like a small agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very large agency, a lot of employees, seasonal career employees, but really has a family atmosphere. So I count it as a pleasure. I'm definitely a Tar Heel from North Carolina, and love my city of Charlotte, but I'm really happy to be able to call Prince George's County home, and I love what I do on a daily basis.
Well, I kind of wrap up these with a couple of questions I asked everybody. But before I get to those, I know you and I met through NRPA, National Rec and Park
Mm-hmm.
Association, and I think you and
Mm-hmm.
I met in Salt Lake City. As you were
Mm-hmm.
talking about that, I'm like, man, I kind of sticks in the back of my brain.
Right.
But anyhow, which was a cool place. I really enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
that conference. But when you think about professional development associations or in general for Parks and Rec, you talked about how your dad helped you understand how to network and all that kind of stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
What do, for a young professional or a student out there, what are some advice related to those associations or those opportunities that you would give somebody?
Yeah, I think the initial one is say yes to even entertaining the opportunity to join or find out more information, right? For me, I often share, and when I say this, I get some people to say, "Man, no, you're not. No, you're not." But to me, I'm a natural introvert, right? Um, and so for me, it was big for me even to apply when I talk about those fellowships and stuff to even do that. But I'm glad I did. So I encourage those that might feel like they're like myself, a little bit more of an introvert, to just say yes initially to even get that connection in sports. Because once you do say yes, you're going to have an opportunity. Even if you're somebody that comes in and lights up the room and is super talkative, or if you're somebody that's a little bit more of an introvert like myself, there's going to be opportunities for you to connect and build.
Yeah.
So I always encourage, especially young professionals, students, to say yes to those opportunities. It's going to be able to expand and maybe also kind of push you a little bit outside of your comfort zone.
Sure.
Because when I look back on it, like just, that involvement, and then very soon, probably 2.5, 3 years in of me being involved in NRPA, I was, assigned to the program committee. And for those who don't know about the program committee at NRPA, they're the ones that come together to select the educational sessions that are presented at the national conference. So me being at the time, at the time I think I had transitioned. By that time I might have been in Maryland. Um, but being at that level early in my, still kind of, as a young professional early in my career, being at the table with directors from across the country, right? And being able to just work with them to put on this and select these phenomenal educational sessions, but also the networking and learning from them and soaking up from them, just their experience. So I definitely encourage others to, get involved with associations or organizations like that, but not only doing it from a perspective of what, you know, you can get out of it, the benefits that will come to you. But you have an impact that you're going to be able to give. Your story,
Right.
is super. What makes it, NRPA is only what the members make it, right?
Sure.
Any organization that you're going to be a part of, it's what you make it and what the members and what you bring to the table. So um, that's what I encourage. And this was to say yes,
Yeah.
to potentially step outside your comfort zone, and it really goes a long way. So now, just me saying yes those many years back has afforded me the opportunity one to now I'm a mentor, right? And then when there's opportunities where I have team members who might want to know a little bit more about this or that, I can connect them with somebody within NRPA. You
Right.
know what I mean? To
Yeah.
say, hey, can you give a little advice on this? So it's just cool to be in that space. It's just cool to be in that space, but it only occurred by me saying yes and being willing to step outside my comfort zone several years back.
And it's kind of why I wanted to include you in my interview series, is
Mhm.
because of that right there. You right is number one. I figured you'd say yes, or I could talk you into it. But the other part is, you meet people, at conferences and whatnot, and what, not like the first impression is like the only impression, but you get a good impression of people, right? And and I knew you and some other folks I've met, are going to be good professionals long term, and serve these mentors as these people that you can look up to, and maybe it's kind of a legacy that's kind of passed down from your dad, right? He served as your
Mhm.
mentor, and he planted that seed, for you to do the same, right? And that's kind of like a legacy, and you're going to continue that on.
Right,
Um,
right.
so, two final questions, but the first
Mhm.
of the two is, if you could do any job you wanted, money wasn't an issue. You didn't
Mhm.
have to make a living, or if you had, if you're, won the lottery, whatever, right? But if what would be your dream job?
Dream job, I always tell people probably I would be Chef Aubert. Aubert is my middle name. I would be a chef. I love to
Yeah.
cook. I love to cook.
What's
I
your
love
best
to cook.
dish?
My best dish, I do a phenomenal, I would say I do a phenomenal roasted rosemary peach turkey breast,
Okay.
which is phenomenal.
I'm writing these
Also,
down, by the way.
yeah, there you go. And then on a smaller scale, like something that's really quick, but if you put the right ingredients, a nice spinach salad with apples, raisins, cranberries, the nice ripe vinaigrette. I love making salmon on the grill. But this is a cool thing about, a lot of times when we were coming together for holidays as a family, I think my mom enjoys when I come home because she sits back and relaxes and I do
Yeah.
all the cooking.
Right.
But I think it's just it's almost like in Park and Rec, like we have an opportunity to bring people together,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, different things and like cooking. I probably enjoy cooking more for others than I even myself.
No, I'm the
You know what
same
I mean?
way. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
if it's for
yeah. So
myself, it's like a sandwich. But if it's for my kids or family, I'll break
right,
it down.
right. So I think like actually going to formal training for that,
Hmm.
adding on to that would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool. Yeah, that would be
Well, so that's probably the most unique answer I've got so far. That's good. I like it.
cool.
I got some good ones. Don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
it's I think chef. Again, like you said, it's bringing people together, and serving them, making them feel good, all that kind of stuff, and then it's part of who we are as Parks and Rec professionals, I guess, right?
Yeah, and the coolest thing I'll say if it's not in the cards for me to be a chef, my niece loves to cook and bake, and she's already on a good path with that, like doing some phenomenal stuff. So worst case, I'm gonna invest into
Right?
to her
Yeah.
Hayden's Cupcake Company, and
Yeah. There you
I'm
go.
be a part owner of that. So yeah, that's cool. I'm glad she's picked that up.
Yeah. Well, before I leave, so if there's a young professional, a student out there in the field or a related field or whatnot, and they're saying, you know what, rightfully so, Atuya is pretty cool. I like what he's done so far. Whatever, right? They're seeing what you've done with your job or your career path, I guess, and they're thinking that's kind of something they're considering. Do you have any advice for young professionals as they enter into this great big world?
Yeah, absolutely. I think an initial phase is look at an opportunity to make sure that you put your professional development as a priority, and it's a main priority for you. Don't necessarily look for, if you have people like Mike and others in your life that are going to push you and be able to connect you. That's great. That's icing, but you have to be passionate about what you want to do in life, right? You have to own that. So I want to encourage to take that on, and never let it your and speaking, I know my partner professionals out here, you know colleagues that are out here on a career daily basis. The grind is real, right?
Yeah.
But you still have to leave that space for yourself, and not even just on the professional development side, but just their overall well-being. So make sure you
Sure.
carve that out and make that a priority. Because at the end of the day, when you get in a career field, the emails are going to always pile up. Calls are always going to be there.
Yeah.
You can get the email box down to 5, and the next day it'll be at 1,500.
Yeah.
But one, it's just a matter of that personal well-being, professionally and personally, to make sure you put forth that good effort to make sure you're taking care of that and exploring and looking at those opportunities, right? Diversifying those opportunities, to be able to give you a real life look to say, okay, do I, maybe I might have wanted to be a zoologist like Atuya did back in the day, but then I come to learn that I really like doing this.
Yeah.
So being able to, those experiences really go a long way. Um, the next thing I would say is, definitely taking it as an opportunity to not only the stuff that you learn through your network, and the experiences that you have, don't keep it to yourself. Like, because we're only as good as what we're able to really connect and build with others. So like for me, it's just phenomenal. I look forward to every 2 weeks connecting with one of my mentees, right? Um, and being able to hopefully share, stuff I learned, but I'm often learning more from him, right? But being willing to have that connection and giving back, because that really goes a long way. That probably, it's significant for me. It's probably one of my main things, even, that I'm always going to carve out, regardless of how busy my schedule is to make sure I'm connecting and building with others and being hopefully give back to them. And often when that occurs, they're giving back to me as well.
Sure.
So that goes a long way. So definitely being open to that. So, being willing to tell your story and your journey of however, where you at now as a student, getting into a career, telling that story, sharing that story, building and growing that story goes a long way. So that's super important. And then, a key component I would say is, and I mentioned this earlier when we were talking, is this empowerment through exposure. Empowerment through exposure. So, you have opportunity to empower yourself. If you are going to become a park and recreation professional and be a community servant, you have an opportunity to empower the community that you're going to serve. So just those experiences, and every experience, every engagement. If you have an opportunity to go to a conference or go to, sporting event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Digest that, bring that back, and not only empower yourself, but be able to empower others along this journey. So, so those would be some key areas,
Sure.
and definitely say yes. Definitely be willing to say yes
Yeah.
when
Just
it
say
comes to
yes.
opportunity. Yeah, definitely when it comes to that, and like I said, you know, regardless if my friends and everybody that know me will say that I'm not an introvert, I'm an introvert. So I want to be able to connect with those out there that might be those introverts, to be one, because as an introvert, we bring so much to the table too, like the way we digest and process,
Sure.
and a lot of times just the calmness and to be able to take stuff in. So the world needs us. So make sure
Right.
give yourself an opportunity to give back to the world, because they need us. They need the introverts.
Well, I'll say this: the world also needs more Atuyas out there,
Appreciate you.
and
Appreciate you.
I really believe that. So we're going on 54 minutes, and I told you it would only last as long as you chatted.
Right.
So I've been waiting to say this since like the beginning. Is Mr. Cornbread? It's been a wonderful time. But
Absolutely. I
uh,
appreciate you.
yeah,
Keep doing this, man, and phenomenal. And to the students out there, um, Mike is phenomenal, and I'm so happy he's doing this platform. And definitely, I guess underneath this, when this is published, There'll be my contacts or whatever. And people
I can give that out to them. I don't put it on the video or
okay.
anything like that, but
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm
Or they can
always
find you on LinkedIn, right?
there you go, on
Yep.
LinkedIn as well. So if I can ever be a benefit to be able to help and connect and build and just to share a little bit on my story, happy to do that. This is a phenomenal profession, and we really have a major impact on lives across the board. And it's super cool that, from Prince George's County, Maryland, to out to San Diego, to Texas, to Arkansas, that we really link and we provide phenomenal service and an impact, throughout for youth, adults across the board, man. So count it a pleasure to be here. Count it a pleasure for the opportunity that we were able to make this happen. So
Yeah,
thank you, Mike.
absolutely. Well, I'm going to let you go so you can go spend the rest of your time with your parents.
There you go.
Sincerely enjoyed learning about your mom and your dad, as well. Some things. So as I do these, I learn more about the people that I'm talking to. Like, I knew Atuya was a good guy. Don't get me wrong, but get to learn a little bit about how Atuya came to be as far as as a person, as a man, and all that. So my hat's off to your parents as well. But go enjoy some of that weather, man. We'll talk to you soon.
There you go.
And,
There you go.
we'll catch up real quick.
Hopefully my mom won't make me cook.
I would make you cook after hearing that.
There you go. Appreciate you.
All right,
Take
I'll
care.
talk to you
Thank you
later,
so
Tia.
much. All right, take care.
Bye bye.